So let's go ahead and get started. So today I'm going to hit a couple of different things, but basically the whole point of this session is tips and tricks. So something may not work for you, and you may get one or two things out of this, but really I'm going to talk about 4 different things that I think are kind of key concepts or something that you can take clear action on. And I'm going to go over 2 kind of fitness, I'm going to call them templates. And then we can kind of go from there. Just like all the other sessions, ask questions as we go along. My first key, and this is, there's been so many studies on people who keep up with their progress, and it all has to do with somewhat starting small. So I picked a few topics just for examples, talking points. Walk. It's very easy to walk. It's a very very common thing anyway. But just some kind of out-of-the-box thinking ideas is if you have a quick meeting, take it outside. Something small enough where you just need to have a discussion and come up to speed, make sure you're on the same page. Just go for a walk around the parking lot. Another one is parking in the back of a lot. So you may still have a crappy car, but you can still park in the back of the parking lot. They do allow them there. I checked before this session to make sure. Another one is taking a lap around the neighborhood after dinner. And then my personal favorite is taking the stairs. I guess you could argue here, you can still walk the stairs through the escalator. So going from something that is very easy to something that's maybe a little bit, maybe middle of the road, is doing squats in the air. And I know it sounds weird, and honestly it does look kind of funny, I'll admit it. But if you want to disguise your squat, you can do what I like to call the slow sit. So you're in a conference room like this, you walk in, you get the chair set up, and then you just take a really, really slow sit into the chair. It's actually one of the things that they actually do as personal training wise to kind of look at form around the squat. The key to something like this, obviously, since we're kind of targeting things to do around the office, is not to really break a sweat. It's not like you're going to sit there and just pump these out like a high-intensity session. Your neighbor may not like that, and your next face-to-face meeting might go a little more uncomfortable. The other thing is if you really are going to do these at your desk, and I can guarantee you'll get some looks, because I do, because sometimes I do these, is squat down and then pause. And another tip on that is if you find that your stability is off, then take your hands in front of your body when you do this squat. It kind of helps with counterbalancing. So especially at the bottom of a squat, and obviously these are only body weights, if you're concerned at all about it, then do it over a chair. That way you don't fall far. But the counterbalancing is working all the stabilizing muscles. So I, of course, if you know me well, like to do things barefoot. I don't really necessarily usually do them barefoot in the office, because then you really get the strange look. But anyway, the point is, these are 2 kind of easy concepts, and you could do them around anything. At the office, obviously, you won't want to do push-ups, although I have been known to do push-ups in meetings before. But you can do it around push-ups, squats. There's tons of different varieties of body weight things that you can add.
Are you talking about for someone that does not exercise at all?
Correct. Yeah. So that's a fantastic question. If you don't exercise, where do you start? Starting small. I still agree. Like, let's say, for example, to kind of follow up on that question a little bit more, you could go to the gym and think of the same thing as a cardio session. You're not going to want to basically have not been to the gym for 3 weeks and then decide to go and take a 1-hour cardio class, for example. So you need to think about what your threshold is. And the point of, if you look at the studies and the points that they're making, is if you take on too much too fast, you have a very high likelihood that you will stop altogether. So the reason that we are or that I am suggesting starting small is because it is the most documented way of making it an actual habit. The next one is not really fitness related, but I think it is important because given where we are, is eye health. And you don't think sometimes, when I said this is going to be a fitness tips and tricks, you probably didn't think I was going to do eye health. But the reason I'm doing that is because I do think that for us and what we do, it is something that is, there can be small steps that you do that can definitely help. My first section is called Near Far, and I always think of the little Muppets, Near Far. Nobody? All right, I got one chuckle. But anyway, if you're at your desk, which would be you're constantly doing near, then you want to find something far off that you can focus on. So let me give you an example. I'm sitting at my desk, and maybe I want to stand up and then look across the building, so whichever direction that would be, and then try to find maybe an exit sign or a grid location sign, and then focus into where you can read that. Just the act of switching that is kind of an exercise. So if you want to think of those as reps, maybe you do 3 reps where you look, focus on that something in the distance, and then come back to something close, and then go back to something in the distance. Believe it or not, sounds like a stupid little thing to do, but doing that, and some people would even recommend doing that every hour, can really improve your overall health of your eyes and strengthening your eyes. The other section I've got is around building blocks. So again, if you want to, I know we talk about different nutrition, eye health. There's a lot of links in nutrition. Dark leafy greens. I don't know why orange bell peppers are more important than the other colors, but for some reason the orange ones are slightly better. Egg yolks, which we've talked about before. I wrote pastured on there just because pastured egg yolks or free-range egg yolks have more of the different vitamins. Also, wild-caught salmon. Carrots. It's funny. You know what? It's funny you say carrots because I don't know. We grew up with that. I wouldn't call it a myth, but the nutrients in carrots that lead to eye health, these 4, like, hands down, way better.
Oh, really?
So I'm not saying carrots are bad for your eyes, because they're not. They're not keto for sure. But what I can tell you is that there are lots of things that are better than carrots. So I don't know why we grew up thinking carrots were bad, but I'm sorry, carrots for your eyes, but definitely is one that's kind of a little weird. I just a personal note here. I used to wear glasses. My eyes weren't horrible, but I had problems focusing, especially at night for long distances. And there are complete programs online that talk about, doing this every hour and everything. But just the simple fact of concentrating on that near far piece has made a big difference. And I just refused. One day I was close enough, I just said, I'm never wearing my glasses again. And I can pass the eye exam at the DP. So your results may vary, and that may be a low bar, but fair enough. I'm just saying. The next point is love it or leave it. And the reason I say that is because do not force yourself to do something that you don't like when it comes to fitness. There are enough things that you can do that are going to impact your overall health that you shouldn't do something that you're not going to like. So, because I teach group fitness, of course, my first bullet point in the gym is group fitness. And the reason, there's tons of reasons why group fitness would be something that you might like, but a lot of it is revolving around you are with a group of people, so there's already a little bit of accountability, and you mentally can't slough off because, you know, you're all kind of pushing each other. And you don't have to think about it. You have completely outsourced your entire fitness to somebody else to figure out. They're doing the programming, they're doing it, they're telling you what's next. You don't even, a lot of times, have to even count, which is, to me, sometimes, especially at 5 a.m., not interested in programming. I'm just want to do some HIIT training, so I like a group fitness class. The next step, before I move off group fitness, there are group fitness classes for every fitness level. I'm going to pick on my gym and use Les Mills examples. If you have a low fitness level, they've got everything from, well, technically Silver Sneakers isn't it's more of a retirement program, not necessarily a group fitness Les Mills program, but everything from Silver Sneakers, when you hit the Les Mills stuff, you've got Body 5, and then it climbs all the way up the ladder to, a light dance classes with Shabam, up to a very aggressive dance classes like Body Jam. And then when it comes to everything from a cardio perspective, you can hit a body attack and body combat where you're burning an average of 700 to 800 calories in the class. So there's a wide gamut. Just because it says group fitness doesn't mean it's aggressive. There's a lot of variety in it. Heavy lifting, also called the floor, if you want to be cool with the lingo at the gym, hitting the floor. I'm going to strongly recommend lifting heavy. I'm going to get into what I do at the end, but it is something that is very easy. You're picking up and putting down heavy things. So really what you need to do then, if you're going to do that, is just look at form, and there are lots of very easy programs. Don't be intimidated by, a 16 split rotation, blah, blah, blah. Just think of picking up a couple of full body movements and doing those in the beginning. Bikes, there's spinning, there's exercise bikes, there's, all kinds of things revolving around those cardio equipment. And the last one is mobility. So let's say, for example, you just feel bad, you think you might be sick. Don't skip the gym, just go find that spot in the gym that has like the stretching stuff and the mobility stuff. Maybe pick up a small kettlebell and just do a little light mobility work. You don't want to lose that habit, and if you spend a week because you're not feeling the best because you're kind of got a cold or your allergies are bothering you, my recommendation is still go and just do something small like mobility.
And carry a bucket.
Carry a bucket? You could carry a bucket. You do farmer carries, sure.
Yeah, in case you feel sick.
Okay, carry the bucket not because it's heavy, but because,
yeah. Well, I don't know, but I think if you're walking around with I don't know.
But yes, if you're sick, I don't know if I would recommend necessarily going into the gym.
But yeah.
At home, there's equally opportunities. TV, I don't know if you guys have, around here, most of us have Xfinity. They've got great on-demand stuff. You can just say, hey, show me yoga. And you can do a 30-minute yoga anytime you want on demand. Also YouTube, tons of programs on YouTube. I'm going to promote one of our previous podcasts. We interviewed somebody here, her name's Steph, and she talks about Beachbody and the programs she loves. So that interview is out there. The best thing about being at home, though, is you can stack it with the best time slot for you. So personally, I'm going to pick on my heavy lifting. I belong to a gym, work at a gym, but I still do heavy lifting at home in my basement at 5 a.m. because it works. And I know that if I wait until after work on a Friday, it ain't going to happen. So you got to find what works for you. Find your best time slot. Any questions on the love it? Because if you don't have something that you love on fitness, talk to me. I bet you can pull something out. I promise. Accountability is my last and final kind of big concept before we talk about the different patterns. And obviously, everybody can think of buddying up, finding a partner to go to the gym with. You know, I got to be there because, you know, my friend's going to be there, and I don't want to let them down. But maybe you don't have a partner at the gym. You're doing that at-home stuff. Get a text buddy or a phone buddy. So you're bugging yourself. Join our Facebook group and say, hey, I'm going to put it out there that I am going to do 1 push-up a day for the next 7 days. And then, we can bug you up. Did you do it? Did you do it? Kind of like my daughter does. Are we there yet? Are we there yet? Are we there yet? I just started to say, we're closer, we're closer, we're closer. It's kind of a we'll go first.
Yeah. Not everybody is accountability piece, so the other option is making it visible. A couple of different options there. Everybody loves apps. There's tons of apps. There's just, it's amazing the amount of apps that are available for this type of thing. So for me, simple is better because I like the Seinfeld calendar kind of concept where you just have a blank calendar and every day I'm going to do it and mark it off so I have some instant gratification. We talked about, doing like air squats before we brushed our teeth in previous sessions or something like that. You could just put that little calendar for the month of all the blank boxes right there in your mirror and just check them off. Whatever works for you, but making it visible and maybe even having it on your fridge or whatever, whatever works for you. That I think that's a very, very visible way to say, did I do it yet for the day? Other one is, setting up your phone for reminders. I don't know if you've got the fancy Apple Watch. Every once in a while it tells you to stand up. You can stack any of those. There you go. You got Fitbit, fanciness, whatever the different phone, whatever tracking system you use. Even if you had the old flip phone now, you can still set a reminder to.
Well, I will flip phone.
Yeah, you guys laugh, but I could, my BlackBerry Pearl flip phone, I would take that back in a heartbeat if I made it again.
I don't have anything but a flip phone.
See?
And it's off 95% of the time.
Well, I don't know if you count them. That sounds like you still want to be reached.
And for support.
There's no reason, nobody has a reason to reach me, so.
Well, remember,
The phone is for other people's convenience. Not yours.
Yeah.
But anyway, a simple reminder, having it, setting, if you're going to commit to every day at 6 a.m., I am going to do X. You could set even the smallest flip phone to remind you it's for an alarm. Whatever you do, I suggest schedule how you're going to build it into your habits. So I just kind of did a little mock example here about how you can start a habit and then layer it on. We've talked about this concept before, but sometimes it's better to walk through some examples. So previously, I don't remember how many weeks ago, it was do an air squat before you brush your teeth. Hey, congratulations. Hopefully most of you do that at least twice a day, so you're getting a couple in. But the next week, I'm going to layer on my slow squats into my work chair. That was from the first example. That's that slow hover as you sit down. Not a physical hover, but a slow squat into your chair. Next week, I'm going to layer on my parking place to the far side of the lot. Next week, my push-ups before I enter the bathroom or bedroom or whatever room you So the point is, you're layering it on, so by the time you hit a week 5, you're doing air squats before you brush your teeth, slow squats when you're sitting down at work in your chair, you're parking farther away from the building, so each time you got a little 1% better, and pretty soon, when it comes to NEAT or that, non-cardiovascular, whether, if you're tracking the step counts or whatever, you're putting that much more layer of fitness into your day. So how you do that, I kind of just laid it out. So there's no question. The first thing you do is find out what your anchor habit is going to be. The habit that you do already. My example, that was brushing my teeth. And then you find your minimum dose, or the minimum that you can do where you won't say, I don't have time for that. I've got to get to work early. An air squat in front of the mirror is not going to kill you before you brush your teeth. No way you can say, well, that's... So find out whatever that minimum effective dose is for you.
Or do it while you're brushing your teeth.
That's what I was gonna say.
Yeah.
Well,
You can combine the two.
keep stacking to a whole other level. Okay, I'm picturing myself. I could get a solid, 5 or 6 in.
Brush your teeth, do squats, and comb your hair.
Or, okay, for those of you guys, yeah, I can't chew gum and walk, so whatever your iterations are, the point is you can build upon them. And I think that's kind of the secret to slowly tricking yourself into better habits. So now I'm going to talk about a couple of programs. I pulled some documentation, some examples of some stuff out on the web. Like I mentioned before, full disclosure, I teach Les Mills class. They've got documentation on what they call the Smart Start program. So you can just Google Smart Start Les Mills. There's lots of documentation, but you can kind of visually start to see, I'm going to start for my first week with a goal of, maybe 50 minutes of activity. And then by about week 6, I want a goal of about 5 hours activity. And then by week 12, my goal is about 6. And there's some example weeks there where I'm saying I'm going to do 20 minutes of cardio. So maybe I'm doing 5 minutes of cardio, four times during the week. I'm going to spend 20 minutes doing a strength session, and then the core flexibility. And we kind of mentioned off the cuff the hovers, but something with doing some light sit-ups, whatever you define as your core stability or flexibility work. You can throw that in there, and you can kind of see how I'm slowly building, and those little 5 minutes here, 5 minutes there turn into 5 to 6 hours of activity that you weren't doing before. So again, sneaking your way into a little bit more activity. So the rest of it's going to kind of be about me, because I want to talk about the Primal Blueprint fitness model. And the reason, I kind of wanted to bring this up is, although you may be making small habits or small changes to your habits, it's kind of nice to say, well, maybe there's a future template that I want to work towards. So there's an entire book about this, so I'm going to kind of hit a couple of things. And the first one is it's a triangle, right? So the majority of your work is what we just spent the first 20 minutes talking about. That's the low frequency. I said that backwards. Higher frequency, but at a low pace. Examples of that: walking, hiking, light cycling, not like HIIT cycling, but basically easy cardio. A goal heart rate, and I know we kind of haven't really talked about heart rate, but if you think about your max effort, about 50%, never hitting your 75% of your max heart rate. There's plenty of heart rate calculators out there if you really, if you have a fitness thing that tells you. So my watch, I've got a Moto Android watch. It will tell me what my fitness rates are by telling me where it's at in my heart rate zone. The point is, working to the previous graph, that 2 to 4 hours of light pace activity. So this could be anything from cleaning the house all the way to taking your dog for a walk. But it's kind of bucking or getting rid of that lifestyle where you're sedentary. Moving up, so this would be the heavy, lifting the heavy things. Not to be confused with the bucket you're going to carry around the gym. this would be brief but yet intense sessions. And I'm going to drill in or drill back into that full body functional movements. So for me, I do this, well, I kind of do a mix. So for heavy lifting, I do one session of solid heavy lifting a week. That's what works for me. I definitely don't spend 60 minutes doing it, but there's enough studies out there that show even just one heavy lifting session a week stimulates muscle growth. So you can do a ton of light activity to sustain that, but one heavy lifting session. And you may want to break it up. Maybe you do upper body, lower body. You can break that into, if you want. But the point is, you are lifting heavy. And heavy is relative. For me, I squat probably a significant amount more than you would, but that's okay. It's what's heavy for you. So to me, I define heavy as I don't want to do much more than 5 reps of something. So let's pick on a squat as an example. I want to put enough weight on that squat that I can do 5 reps, and if you wanted to track it and follow like a 5x5, you want to do 5 sets of that and still have 1 left in the tank. The reason why is because you want to be able to keep going. If you get to a point where you can do more than 5, that's a trigger to yourself that I can add a little bit more weight. A little bit obviously is relative to how much you're lifting. That would be 2.5 pounds, maybe down to 1 pound, depending on what you're weighing. You want to kind of adjust that based on your overall percentage. And if you don't make 5, that's totally acceptable. What you don't want to do though is get yourself into a point where you are considering to do something so heavy that you're going to hurt yourself. So if you can't, or you don't think that you can do a full set of the next one, just rack it. Don't kill yourself. I know you'll see people at the gym eking out that last one, or having somebody spot them so they can just get a little bit more. I think that's a point where you just need to follow the Pareto principle of the 80-20. You're not going to see that big of gains. If those people are bodybuilders, they're trying to eke out that last little bit. And for you, I'm going to say most people, it's probably not that important. So lifting heavy, to finish kind of the concept of the lifting heavy, I do a kind of modified 5x5 where 5 movements. I try to do 5 reps of that movement. So I always do squats, and then I alternate overhead presses. I do overhead presses. See, this is why I have an app that tells me. Overhead presses, bench press, rows, and the last one. Yeah, I guess it's not that important. Just Google 5x5 programs, and there's plenty to tell you. So, like I only do it once a week, so I don't even have to remember until Friday. So proof that you can have a solid fitness without it being super complicated. Now here's the one that you're not going to like. Sprints. Now, sprints is a concept. There can be lots of different things from sprints. For the most part, up to this point, we've mostly been talking about HIIT, or high intensity training, where you go all out for a short burst and you back it off. In less than 10 minutes, you can become very winded very fast. So it doesn't matter. You may not be a runner, so to a sprint to you isn't running, so that's fine. You can sprint on an exercise bike. You can sprint on a rower. You can do that at any point. But if you are running or you are walking, there is nothing wrong with your sprint being only a mile an hour faster. The point with a sprint is that you give it your all and then you rest. So it doesn't really necessarily matter how fast your sprint is. how fast you're pedaling your bike. The point is when you stop or you slow down, that you are just sucking air like crazy. And the reason why that's important is that will trigger your cardiovascular system. And again, that is also something that you really only need to do about once a week. I do not follow this quite because I hover with something right in between that heavy lifting and the sprints, which is another less middle class that's called grit. And grit's got both a plyo version and a strength version. And it's basically a combination of the lift heavy and the high intensity. So it kind of falls in the middle. If you could argue that sometimes I will do what's near a sprint twice a week. Now, this model, like I said, it's just that. It's a blueprint, or it is a template. You can kind of do whichever you want. So we talked a lot about the bottom. That's the most frequency. Your 2 to 5 hours. The lift heavy. Your only action there is to find out what you're going to do. Lift heavy can be different for everyone. You do not have to use weights. You can do full body movements. That would be fine also. Or you can take soup cans out of your kitchen, or grab a gallon of water, or that bucket.
A full bucket.
The full bucket, not the empty bucket that you carry around. So that's what I do. I'm going to kind of talk a little bit about why this model works. This model works because when it comes to, and now I'm going to talk about weight loss. I know, and previously keto in general is not a weight loss diet, but when it comes to weight loss, about 80% of weight loss, at least, is revolving around what you eat. There's another previous recorded session on diet versus exercise where I go through 5 different characteristics and what has the biggest impact. Well, when it comes to weight loss, it is diet. So if about 80% of your body composition is basically via what you eat, then you only got about 20% left. So this right here is the smart, I'm going to call that smart exercise, is still a solid 10%. You could argue 10 to 15, depending on your gene characteristics. So that's the lifting heavy, the sprinting, the moving frequently at a low pace, those pieces. And what we don't really talk about, it really isn't in the scope of this session, is the lifestyle factors. Are you recovering? Are you sleeping? Are you killing yourself with stress because you're letting you're taking your job home with you? Those type of that we have talked about, raising your cortisol and those type of things. But that's kind of where it is. So when it comes to me, where I've been the most successful for my fitness level, it's been backing way off the intensity of the gym, lifting heavier things, and then getting control of the building blocks of the nutrition. And that, for me, has led it to a situation where I feel, I'm not joking, I feel 10 years younger than I did 10 years ago. Which is really weird when you think about it, because that would be 20 years spread if you looked at the overall map. So, I don't have to have an 8-pack. I'm not that person on the cover of a magazine. So, yes, you're going to see tons of people out there that are inking those little extra 10% out of everything. And just think, do I want to do that? And if you do, great. By all means, do it. You just won't want to follow these models I've talked about today, because today it's all about getting the most out of the least amount of effort. So, with that, I'm going to kind of reiterate your actions. You will pick an anchor habit. Think about it right now. What's your anchor habit? If you don't have one, it's brushing your teeth. I just assigned it to you. What's your minimum dose? What you're going to do to be effective? Just enough that you're not gonna not do it. Not gonna not do it. Little double negatives there. Again, if you don't have it in your head right now, it's air squats. And then, how are you gonna build? So overall, if we had a reunion a year later, and we all got together, how is those small little steps going to completely change the way you visually thought about fitness in your life? Because when it comes down to it, the most important thing is taking action. Because you got to take a step forward. The one thing I do want to mention about taking action is you are not always going to succeed. You're going to try something and you're going to hate it. And that's fine. Don't try to make up for it by adding a whole bunch of extra stuff. Just back it off. Go back to your habits that were the most successful and start again. Don't try to change the world. Just try to take one little bit better step at a time. So, anchor, minimum dose, iterate. You do all those things, I promise you will improve your fitness level. So, any questions?